Okay, hello everyone. My name is Shelley. I'm going to give you a presentation about my paper. First of all, I had to get an idea. I was reading this article, Handys sind für Flüchtlinge kein Luxus. Mobile phones are not luxury items for refugees. And it got me to thinking, what are the consequences when refugees are prosumers as well? Well, I had two questions. First of all, what are they like, and are they empowered by taking part in prosumption? First of all, prosumption is production plus consumption, which gives you prosumption. For example, taking part in your own service at a restaurant. All of these examples are physical production in the factory, physical consumption by shopping, and physical prosumption in a restaurant. But the world has been mediatized, so nowadays we take part in prosumption online. This is in the form of blogging or tweeting and so on. Some researchers say that the virtual and the real, in fact, are the same. This may seem theoretical, but in fact, when you consider the Egyptian revolution, for example, where Twitter and Facebook were used quite often, you see the connection between the virtual and the real. As for representation, in the past, the other has been represented as a labourer, which means they are uneducated, perhaps wild, dirty, and for sure unskilled. Representation is also present in the term refugee, for example. The first part is refuge. So this person here is looking for help from this person here. So they are passive in that part of the word. The second part is E, and E means recipient or beneficiary. So the refugee is passive because of both of these parts of the word. Even images of the refugee show people of lower socioeconomic groups. They are poor. They don't have much. This is the same when you just look for Iraqi people. You can see these people are not rich. But now, when we look at the refugees, they don't look the same. So who is this new person? Well, this person is modern, educated, perhaps affluent, they have mobile phones, and they are more like us. Even down to taking selfies and posting them on social media. Not only that, but I would like to show you a video.
Letting these migrants in. We should be more worried about the actual downside of turning them away, if for no other reason that you might miss out on someone like Najeen, who seems like she would improve any country that would have her. Just listen to how she taught herself English.
How did you learn to speak such good English?
At home with my favorite TV show.
What's that?
It's Days of Our Lives with a teenage struggle. Yeah, I love them both.
How can you not want this girl in your country? She loves Days of Our Lives. She loves it. She loves Days of Our Lives.
So even down to speaking English, refugees are like us. So are they empowered by all this new prosumption and all these things they can do that are like us? Well, when you think of refugee consumers, first of all, they have choice in what they consume. They have the consumer experience. If the virtual and real are the same, then perhaps they have the experience of shopping, for example, online. And they can take social networks and make them their own in a process of indigenization. Also, they are empowered by gazing back. Bell Hooks says there is power in looking. So all of these are positive effects of refugee consumption. However, but because they take part in consumption, they could be controlled by powers, and they could be vulnerable to media effects in the same way any other consumer would be. As producers, you could see the woman taking a selfie. Well, they can represent themselves. This is a form of empowerment. They can create their own online identity, also empowering. They can narrate their own lives, like this woman taking a selfie. And this selfie, according to Sula, is kind of therapeutic. You can distance yourself from the image. So you distance yourself by taking the picture and narrating your own story. Perhaps refugees might find this helpful to deliberate on their difficult situation. However, it's pretty important when you think of activism and you think of people taking part in the Egyptian revolution, for example, and how many refugees would actually take part in that. Well, Van Dyck says only 1 in 100 people are active online content producers. So how many refugees are really producing content? And even of these who are producing content, how many argue for change? Then, even if they argue for change, of those, how many actually manage to effect change? My point is, perhaps not so many. When we move on to audiences, or when we think of audiences traditionally, we think of Western audiences, because Western audiences have made the image of the refugee in the past through anthropology and so on. Now, consumption is not elite. It doesn't belong to this Western observer anymore. But perhaps there is deliberate ignorance. There are some advantages to keeping the other poor. There is distance between them and us. We are not like them. We are not poor. We are not from war-torn regions. And if the other is evil, we must be good. The uniqueness of the West now has changed. It's not unique anymore if refugees can take part in it as well. Perhaps we are not superior anymore. We are not like in this image of the person giving refuge. We're not so generous anymore because the refugees don't need as much help, perhaps. And the difference has diminished. Perhaps that's important because if something awful happened to them, maybe it will happen to us as well. Maybe we're not so safe. So that leads me to my conclusion. Refugees are empowered by participation, but perhaps not by being activists. Perhaps not many of them are activists. changing, making social change. The difference has diminished. There's no way of telling that they are different from us. But the most important part is that you shouldn't let the illusion of virtual empowerment obscure the issue of unequal power relations. Even if they are empowered by participating online, there are still unequal power relations, and it's important not to lose sight of that. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. Goodbye.